Our topic today is verbal questions. My name is Pipituchan Moko from Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Now let's start with types of verbal questions or types of question. First, we have verbal questions. Verbal questions are also known as yes-no questions. So verbal questions are the same as yes-no questions. That's the first type. And then the second type is pronominal questions. Pronominal questions, or they are also known as WH word questions. These are because they start with a WH word like what, when, how, why. So those are pronominal questions. But our topic today is verbal questions. Now let's have verbal questions. A verbal question is a question which asks for a confirmation or a yes/no answer. So by giving a yes or no answer, we give the confirmation. We give a confirmation. It's a question which asks for confirmation from the addressee. Then verbal questions may have different forms because of the presence or absence of a linking verb. So we have linking verb be, or we have a modal or aspect or voice auxiliary verb. So the forms can be different because of the presence or absence of these linking verbs. Then we have verbal questions may have different forms because of the status. So in general, we have positive verbal questions, but we can also have negative verbal questions. So we'll talk about how to answer negative verbal questions and also, well, the answers to positive verbal questions. Now, verbal questions with a be linking verb. We have when a sentence has a linking verb be, the verbal question is formed by simply moving be on the form of be before the subject. So it's the position after the subject. That's why we often have what we call inversion, because the predicate is put before the subject. The normal order of an English sentence is subject, predicate, and object. But we have an inversion if we have a verbal questions. You have Mary is a hard worker. And the question is Mary a hard worker? That's a question. It's ask for confirmation whether Mary is a hard worker or not. The show in Jakarta was its greatest success. This is a statement. And then we can ask a question, a verbal question. Was the show in Jakarta his greatest success? And the answer is either yes or no. It was very hot last night. Was it very hot last night? That's the verbal question. Was it very hot last night? English is very important for our future. And we can have a verbal question. Is English important for our future? So is Mary a hard worker? That's a verbal question. Remember, we have a rising intonation when we have a verbal question. We have a rising intonation when we have a verbal question in English. Is Mary a hard worker? Was the show in Jakarta his greatest success? Was it very hot last night? Was it very hot last night? So the rising element can be hot or last night. Was it very hot last night, or was it very hot last night? So we have a rising intonation. Is English important for our future? Then we have verbal questions with an auxiliary verb. We can have a voice auxiliary verb, an aspect auxiliary verb, or modal auxiliary verb. Well, if we have got an auxiliary verb, then the verbal question is formed by moving the auxiliary verb before the subject, just like when we have be. For example, we have the final test will be in June. The yes/no question or verbal question is, will the test be in June? Will the final test be in June? Rita may leave the meeting. May Rita leave the meeting? So we just put the auxiliary verb may before the subject. May Rita or may she leave the meeting? Andy has returned the book. And the question is, has Andy returned the book? So put has before the subject, Andy. Has Andy returned the book? They are singing for the show. Are they singing for the show? Are they singing for the show? So we have are here and we put it before the subject they. Are they, are they singing for the show? The flight is cancelled. So this is a passive sentence with is. The flight is cancelled. Is the flight cancelled? And then the proposal was rejected. Was the proposal rejected? So here was it's just put before the subject proposal. Here we have will and may, which are the modal auxiliary verb. We have has and are for perfect and continuous, which are the aspect modal auxiliary aspect auxiliary verb. And we have is and was with the verb here, which are the passive or voice auxiliary verb. And we simply put them before the subject. Now we have also verbal questions without an auxiliary verb. Well, in this case, if we don't have an auxiliary verb, we need the auxiliary verb do, does, or did. So we need do, does, or did to form a verbal question without an auxiliary verb. The auxiliary verb here is do, does, did. So if we don't have any auxiliary verb, then we need to use do, does, or did. We have the children have homework every day. We can ask, do they have homework every day? Do they have homework every day? That's the question. Linda likes watching kung fu movies. Yes, it's pleasant to watch a kung fu movies. Linda likes watching kung fu movies, and here the question is, does she like watching kung fu movies? Does she like watching kung fu movies? So we just put does, and then remember here we have like here without s because we have does over here. But here no problem, we have and have over here because we have two, and the subject is plural here, the children. So does she like watching kung fu movies? I do. She does. Good. Mr. Lawson gave a lift. Mr. Lawson gave a lift. That's a past tense, and therefore we need to have the auxiliary verb did. Like, did he give you a lift? Yes, he gave me a lift. And then the next we have sometimes you have do you have or have you to ask questions to ask possession. Here we have do you have is common question, is the common question for asking possession. So do you have is the common question. However, in British English, BE, have you is also used to ask about possession. We have do you have, sorry, this is a typo. Do you have a lighter? Do you have a lighter? So this is the common question. Do you have a lighter? But we can also have you a lighter? This is a common in some dialects of English, but nowadays it becomes archaic, or it's rarely used. You sound very like an old person when you use have you a lighter. So in some dialects it is still used with have you, but now it becomes archaic or old use of have. The common form is, or the common construction is, do you have a lighter? Do you have a lighter? Have you got a lighter? And this is also okay. Have you got a lighter? This is a common question as well as in British English. Now, let's continue with the positive and negative questions. We have a verbal question can be in the positive form, meaning it doesn't have not, or a negative form with a not. But the answer is just the same, yes according to the fact or no according to the fact. So for example, we can say, can you understand the text? And the answer is yes, I can, meaning that I have the ability to understand the text. Yes, I can. I have the ability to understand the text. And the question is, can you understand the text? Yes, I can. Or if you don't understand, then we can say, no, I can, meaning that I lack the ability to understand the text. I don't have the ability to understand the text. No, I can. So can you is positive, and the answer is according to the fact whether you have the ability or you lack the ability. It's the same. If you ask the questions, if we have a question, can't you understand the text? The answer is still the same. Yes, I can, meaning I have the ability, or no, I can, meaning I lack the ability. So It doesn't matter whether you have can you or can't you, the answer is just the same. Haven't you returned the library book? This is a negative question. Haven't you returned the library book? And the answer is yes, I have, meaning that I don't keep the library book anymore. I don't keep the library book anymore. I have returned the book. I have returned the book. This is according to the fact you have returned the book. Or no, I haven't, meaning that I still keep the library book. So whether you have the question, have you returned or haven't you returned, the answer is the same. We have negative questions only because we suspect that here you still keep the book. So what the speaker or the person who asks questions is probably he is surprised or he is suspecting that you still keep the library book. But the answer is just the same whether you have positive or negative. The answer is just according to the fact. Now, still about negative verbal questions. Negative verbal questions with a separate not. So we can have a not separately. Here we have, are you not happy with your progress? So, are you not happy with your progress? This is common. Are you not happy with your progress? Have I not introduced this topic in the discussion? Have I not introduced this topic in the discussion? So here, not here is separated from have. We can also have, aren't you happy with your progress? Aren't you happy with your progress? Aren't you happy with your progress? Or haven't I introduced this topic in the discussion? So we can have a separate not, or we can have what we call the well, if we have that, that's a normal question. Are you not and have I not? So that's the way we ask questions. So whether you can say, are you not or have I not is the same. That's normal. But we can also have a contraction, meaning that not is constructed, not merges with the auxiliary verb. So we can say, isn't the topic important for you? Isn't the topic important for you? So we can say, is the topic not important for you? Or isn't the topic important for you? They're the same, but this one, well, we say that this is less formal. Didn't you read the announcement? Didn't you read the announcement? And can you spare some minutes for me? Can you spare some minutes for me? So we can have a merge, I mean a construction between isn't, is and not become isn't, do and not become don't, and can and not become can. So we have the construction, and this one is sounds less formal. So we can have, once again, we can have separate not, and the auxiliary verb moves on the front, but not is still after the subject. Or we have the construction with not merges with the auxiliary verb, and that sounds informal. Okay, and that's all. Thank you very much.